Can one company deliver on a commitment to every person in Michigan? Count on it. Count on Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan to be there for our members and for everyone across Michigan. Every day, in every zip code, we're committed to our Michigan communities. At free clinics, offering help to those in need. At schools, teaching kids healthier habits. All over Michigan, we're making a difference because this is our home too. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Confidence comes with every card.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Weekly with Wheatley. I'm Brady Beedon, joined by Wayne State head coach Tyrone Wheatley. Coach, coming on the end of the season, we haven't talked in a couple weeks. It's been a couple of tough games again at Grand Valley. Before that, you had Ferris, Davenport, the whole shebang during the month of October. I guess, what has it been the last couple of weeks, and where have the improvements need to be made that you've seen over the last few games?
The only improvement really is just the guys understanding the process and not trying to do too much and just settling and playing.
So you bring up the process. I guess the question would be, where are we in that process? Where was the start of the season, and where have the progressions come, and where are the next steps in this progress for this team?
Well, it's ebbs and flows, right? Young men are growing, and like we talked about earlier in this years, we didn't have a lot of production coming back. And as we're going, and like anything else, they want to make the right moves, they want to do the right things, but the best thing is always the most simplest thing, and that's just doing your job. And as we're growing and we're going through that, we had some injuries and some guys that had to step up, and so that process starts over, right? It starts over with younger guys, and it continues rows. So where are we in the process right now? I think we're right on point. We're right where we need to be. We're growing. We're going through this, and then as you see in next year, that's where the growth grows so much more, because now you have spring football and you get a chance to show them the mistakes, and the guys mature a little bit more, and they say, okay, that proverbial light bulb turns on, and they say, I get it now. All I have to do is just do my job, and it turns on for them.
Now, I'm sure we'll talk about this in the final segment when we preview Roosevelt, but I'm sure you're hoping to see some of that progress show on the field on Saturday when Roosevelt comes into town, one of the newer teams in the GLIAC.
Yeah, but the progress has been shown every week, but it's just on a consistent basis, right? And I think that's the whole word everybody talks about in the country, no matter what sport you play, even just in life, just being consistent, right? And I think the more you grow and the best you get to is the consistency. And yes, you're hoping to see that this week.
So you just got done playing the two valleys, Saginaw, Grand Valley, and they're two of the better teams in the GLIAC. Grand Valley almost assuredly will make the playoffs. Saginaw Valley will have a big game against Ferris to make a playoffs. They just knocked off Davenport at home. What is an experience like that against two of the top teams in this league? What does that do for that process and getting these kids where you need them to be?
Well, once again, you play two good teams, but once the guys understand that, they always say, well, physically they're not much different than we are. But the progression of terms of execution and just doing what they're supposed to do and being where they're supposed to be, that's the biggest part. And they have a lot of production coming back. We talked about Saginaw. That defense has been together for a while. And then Grand Valley, like we said, it just turns over. They don't rebuild, they just reload. Mm-hmm. And so it just constantly just turns over, and we have to get to that point where we're in that same mode.
Again, the constant theme, and I think it's the frustrating theme, not just for us, but obviously for you as well, is just not getting the four quarters together. Either the first half you come out and you play well, Truman State, Davenport, and then you tail off in the second half, or come out with a very slow first half and then figure it out in half number two, Findlay, Grand Valley, games like that. What is it about the four quarters? Is it because it hasn't been one side or the other? It hasn't just only been the first half's been slower. Only it's been trailing off at the end of games. As a coach, when you look at that, what are the discussions like in the coach's office about what do we need to do to get these four quarters together?
Well, sometimes there's nothing to do, right? And I know that sounds kind of crazy, like there's nothing to do. But once you understand what is going on, and like I told you, these guys are young, it's going to take their time. Mm-hmm. The one thing that they're doing that we didn't do last year is they're not quitting. Mm-hmm. They're coming out and they're playing hard, and they're giving the effort that needs to be done. The biggest thing is just cleaning up the mistakes. And so when you talk about the process and where we are and am I happy with, yes, these young men, they're still fighting. They're coming in every week and they're working their tail off. But once again, it's just a maturation in how they grow. You have to understand a lot of these guys, you talk about Champ, our starting quarterback, this is his first time starting in college football, right? So when we talk about production, this is the first time a lot of these guys have played. And so you have to understand and grow them through that and be patient with them through it. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not like we went to transfer portal and brought in a bunch of fifth-year seniors, and grown men. I think the big defensive tackle at Grand Valley, he was 27 years old coming out the Army. So that's the difference. And people say, well, why don't you go get that? It's just I prefer not to.
Oh, let's talk about some of those guys the younger guys that are hopefully taking that next step. Because, yes, guys like Carl Ware, Caleb Coleman, they're great, but they're in their final year. They're not guys that are going to be able to help beyond this season. Who are some of the young guys you have seen that have stepped up and made some plays, and you go, okay, I can see how he's a different football player in November than he was in August?
Well, I think you want to talk to one of the young men tonight. Roshaun McGee, he's not even a freshman. He's older in the soul, but he plays like an older guy. He's built structurally sound for football. I mean, he loves the game. He really goes after it. So he's one guy. You talk about Makai Guy, receiver, played last week, made some good plays out there. And you got Amir Harris, who played a couple of snaps there. So we have a plethora of young guys that's going to be good for us.
With those young guys, obviously taking the next step, we've talked before about preserving the red shirt, but how do you determine what kids that you want to go ahead and say, all right, let's push them into the fire now, or let's just let them get a taste and then we'll come back to you next year?
Well, I think a lot of it happens with depth and also immediate impact, right? If they still have some development to do, and we talk about consistency, right? If they're to the point where they're not really consistent, and you say, well, put them out there and let them grow, but sometimes that could be a detriment because you hurt their confidence and everything else. So some of them don't have the body armor to play a full season, right? So they got to get developed in musculature and all that. So there's a lot of variables that goes into it, but at the same time, you want to put them out there to get them that taste. So now they get in the weight room in the off season, kind of get that taste. Say, okay, listen, I know what I have to do personally to get ready, and then on top of what we do as coaches.
Over the last couple games, what has been maybe a position group or a group of kids on your team that you thought as a unit have played pretty well and have given you opportunities to do the right things and be in games?
I would say on the back end of defensive backs and receivers, they've been the two groups.
And then on the other end of that, where's maybe not a group per se, but where you need to take the next step in terms of on-field production or X's and O's, where you'd like to see it show up a little more in the stat book?
I would say the quarterback spot.
And obviously some of that is taking your Champion Edwards goes down and getting a new guy in there. So I guess how is that process? Because it's next man up. Injuries are a part of the game, and I tell you what, if Roosevelt's quarterback pulls a hammy in practice this week, you're not going to be crying for him, and just like Roosevelt's not crying that Champion Edwards or Grand Valley or Saginaw Valley wasn't crying that Champion Edwards went down. So how do you balance that with the next man up mentality?
It's football. And I think, once again, there's a shared responsibility, and we talked about this before. A lot of it has to come on to the player. The player has to say, listen, even though I'm the backup, even though I'm the third string guy, I still must prepare and act as though I'm the starter. And if that does happen, I'm stepping right in as if I've taken every rep. And so, but once again, these guys are young. So you talk about Robert Brazell, first year starting. He was a junior college guy, so he's coming in. But once again, there are no excuses. Like you say, they don't feel sorry for us. But each game, he's gotten better. He's grown and he's matured and he's gotten better each game.
So, well, hopefully we see another step forward this week. We'll talk about Roosevelt when we come up. But, Coach, anything else on the last couple games that maybe something you want to highlight that I didn't ask you about?
Well, no. I mean, what these guys have been playing, they're playing pretty hard and they're playing extremely well. Like I said, with some minor adjustments here and there. But I would just like to say, our receiving corps has been doing a really good job.
Well, Coach, I appreciate it. We'll talk to you later. We'll let you get something to eat here at Woodbridge Pub, a very cozy spot in Woodbridge in Detroit with great vibes and even better food. Woodbridge Pub is known for its delicious, locally sourced menu and craft cocktails. It's the perfect spot for a casual night out or weekend fun. Whether you're relaxing on the patio, enjoying live music, or catching up with friends, Woodbridge Pub is your go-to for a true Detroit experience. Stop by today and taste what makes Woodbridge Pub a local favorite. We'll be back here live from Woodbridge Pub with Weekly with Wheatley right after this with Coach Sims and Roshaun McGee. Now joined by Wayne State defensive coordinator Tom Sims. Coach, we appreciate you coming on. Also part of the D-line, Coach. That's where you spend a lot of your time. But I guess before we get started, we talk about the season, talk about what coming up in the last couple games. Just as a D coordinator, I'll start off with this. What's your philosophy? What do you want the Wayne State defense to look like?
I want a Wayne State defense to be these things. I want them to be aggressive, and I want them to be sound, okay? And I want them to be a group of young men that take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. And you do those three things, you're going to be a good defense.
I think there's a few players we can talk about that have done that. I'm sure a lot of D coordinators would like to have guys like Carl Ware, Caleb Coleman behind them to almost erase mistakes at times. They just fly around the field. They make plays. A couple older guys. I know we'll get to some of the younger guys you have. But what have those two specifically done? Because I can tell you from the broadcast booth, those are two guys that stand out in a big, big way.
Well, they poured into our defense. They have a lot of experience, and what they've done is they kind of set a standard for the guys around them.
So with the kind of defense you want to set up, you said aggressive but sound. Where is the linchpin for your defense? I know some guys you got to have the big guys up front filling holes. Sometimes you need those linebackers. Some defenses will ask corners to go one-on-one and be on an island and lock them down. Where are the key spots for a Coach Sims defense to really succeed?
Really, it's all of the above, because in what we do, it's a little bit different. You can do everything right 9 times out of 10. If one of your 11 break down on that 10th play, it could be fatal. It's 6 points, and you're off the field. Yeah,
that's the difference between offense and defense. Hey, offense, you run the wrong route or something. Hey, it goes incomplete. All right, it's 2nd and 10. We can live from that. Defense, like you said, corner has the wrong read and the wrong coverage. D lineman's in the wrong gap. Linebacker doesn't fill the right way. Whoop, it's out the gate, and then and next thing you know, you're looking at the iPad trying to figure out what one piece went wrong.
That's just the nature of the business. It's the nature of what we do, and like I said, it's something that's got to be 100% of the time. You have to do your job, and you have to do it at a high level consistently.
So I know you've had some young guys step up. We're going to talk to one later in Roshaun McGee. But along with him, who are some of the other younger guys that you're going, all right, I have this guy for a couple years. He's pretty good right now, but I can continue to mold him and make him into a guy that's going to be a problem for GLIAC offenses now and in the future.
Well, Jaden Acker will come to mind definitely. He is a redshirt freshman that's he's really been a consistent force for us, and I just expect him to continue to improve. Kobe Horn is a guy who's gained some experience. I wouldn't necessarily call him a young guy now because he's a redshirt sophomore, and we're looking forward to him taking that next step to being a guy that can be a force in this conference as well.
So we kind of talked about with Coach Wheatley before, I think it was last time or 2 times ago, how when you get to this point in the season, you're not a freshman anymore, you're a sophomore. You're expected to play like you're a year older than it says on the roster. For a defense, when do you expect those guys to take this next step and expect it to really click and go, all right, I get it now, and now I'm playing like, hey, maybe I'm not a first-time guy. I'm in my 9th, 10th game.
The first game is how I'd like it to happen. You can't guarantee that it comes out like that. And again, there will be growing pains, and regardless of the situation, regardless of the young man, there'll be mistakes that are made. But the thing that covers that up is effort. Mm-hmm. If you play hard and you give great effort, and the people around you are doing the same thing, playing hard and giving a great effort, that covers up a lot of mistakes that a young player might make.
And I think you have to find that balance because, yeah, you want to have the right effort, but you got to concentrate it in the right areas. I think that's where sometimes with young players, they have the misgivings. Hey, the want to is there. It's not a question of, hey, does this kid want to be great? Does he want to make the play? It's just, all right, you're kind of running wild. Let's hone you in on this one thing. And once you do that, we'll be all right.
Oh, no doubt. There are certain things that, like the things that we talked about, your fundamentals, your focus, knowing your assignment and doing your assignment consistently. All of these things lead up to kind of like what you're talking about, a consistent football player. And those are the things that we harp on. Those are the things that we push, and we will continue to do it. And I've been in a situation kind of like this before when I was at the University of Illinois. We went 2-10, then the Rose Bowl. And so it can happen. It's kind of like hitting a rock. You never know when it's going to break. But if you stop hitting it, it will not break. You got to keep pounding the rock.
So when you were at Illinois, let's talk about that. When did you see it coming from when you were in that second 2-10 season? Were you able to maybe go, all right, we're close, we just need a little bit more buy-in? Or what was the turning point with that when you really hit on all cylinders?
Well, what happened is this. We had young football players. That first 2-10 season, we played freshmen. We played a lot of freshmen. Then we were able to add some young guys that could come in and contribute and play at a high level. But kind of like you mentioned earlier, they weren't quite there from a technique standpoint or from a stamina standpoint. And so, but what happened is we still lost, but we lost close games. I remember we had the first year, funny story, we're playing Penn State, and we said we're going to blitz them. We're going to blitz them till they score. Third play, okay, now what are we going to do? And it was Coach Paterno. They put 54 on us in the first half. And so it's the only time I've ever been through that. I've been through some, but I've never been through that. They put 54 on us on the first half. The next year was a one-score game. The year following that, we beat them, and they were number 5 in the nation. And so it's just a matter of stacking and consistently demanding from yourself, demanding from the guys around you, effort.
So hopefully we see that sort of turnaround, but it is a little bit of a different day and age in college football where back then, hey, you get a kid in, you're like, you're here. Sorry, you're going to be here, and unless you want to drop down a level, you're going to stay here, or if you want to sit out a year. Now you have to contend with the transfer portal, and it can be a great thing. It can be a thing that's detrimental to a program. What's the difference in trying to build a program back up when there is the threat of a transfer portal, both bringing guys in and knowing, hey, just because we have this kid as a freshman doesn't mean we'll have him as a sophomore?
The 4 R's: recruit, retain, reward, repeat. That's what you do. You just keep the guys. You make sure that your guys have a positive experience where they are. And then the other part of it is the transfer portal is a plus in my eyes because look at our destination. I mean, we have a Power 5 campus. You know, let's keep it real. We have a Power 5 campus in a major city, and it's attractive to a lot of people. The trick is getting them here to see it.
Because once you get a lot of these guys on campus, then that seals the deal. It's convincing them to get here. Once you get boots on the ground, half the time it's over.
I mean, it can be. I mean, you think about it. I mean, you can get on a scooter and be at a Pistons, a Red Wing, a Lions game in 10 minutes from your dorm room. You're 15 minutes from another country. Right. There's 14 cities that have all major sports. We're one of them. Right. And so there's a lot of, and then I won't even talk about the university, the things that we have to offer as far as we have a medical school, we have a law school, engineering school. There's not a lot of places in the Division II sphere that can offer all of the things that we have.
It has to make life easier when you go and sit in someone's living room and you say, whatever you want to pursue, 95% of the time, we're going to be able to accommodate that, where a lot of other schools go, all right, I hope you want to go into this one or two things. Otherwise, sorry, you're going to have to go into one of those two things.
The only time they ever got me was agriculture. Somebody said that. A kid from Mississippi said agriculture, and I had to hem and haw a little bit. But no, like I said, it's a world-class university.
Coach, I'll just end with this. Second time through the GLIAC, what's that been like? Because there's a little bit of everything. You go up to the UP, you have some of the best teams in the country in this conference. GLIAC's constantly sending teams deep into playoff runs. What's it been like getting used to the GLIAC and D2 football?
I tell you, it's a tough conference, and every week you have to bring it. And then our out-of-conference schedule wasn't a layup either. So you got to bring it every week, and that's how you want it as a football coach or a football player.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming out to Woodbridge Pub to talk with me, and good luck against Roosevelt.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
He's Coach Tom Sims. I'm Brady Beedon. We'll bring on Roshaun McGee in just a moment here on Weekly with Wheatley. Back here on Weekly with Wheatley, joined by now a young guy on the Wayne State defensive line, Roshaun McGee. Roshaun, must have a lot of confidence from your coaches, because usually the guests we have on here, juniors, seniors, older guys, but bring a young guy on. I will certainly say on the field you've earned the right to come on here, because we've seen you play pretty well. So thanks for taking some time coming out to Woodbridge Pub to come and talk with us.
I appreciate coming here.
So coming in as a freshman, obviously it's a big change going into college football. It's a lot to bring in all at once. Not just, even if it's just football, there's a lot on the plate, but getting used to going to college, getting used to being on your own, all that. And it seems like you've taken it in stride. What has your process been like from getting on campus day one of camp to now? I mean, heck, you're still probably finding your way around every corner of Wayne State.
Yeah, definitely finding my way around. It's definitely been the older guys helping me move around, helping me get around, giving me great advice as far as school, how to manage. I definitely been late to a couple meetings, but other than that, I've been doing really good, getting up. It's been fun.
So talk about the process of coming here to Wayne State. Obviously, not that long ago, pretty fresh in your mind. What was that recruiting process like, and how you ended up a Warrior?
It was a crazy thing. I never expected to be up here. A friend of mine had got recruited, and he told me he was going to put me on with the coach. And I ended up talking to Coach Sims, and I've never looked anywhere else.
What was the thing that sealed it for you? Was it Coach Sims? Was it coming on campus? Was it a combination of all the things? What was it what made you really say, yeah, I'm coming to Wayne State?
I'm trying real hard to get to work with GM or something like that. I love the mechanical engineering side of things. That's my major. So just hoping to get something with that around here. It's a great area to be in.
Love to hear that. And like Coach Sims just talked about, pretty easy for him to sell on what you can do after football with that. But on the field for you has been pretty spectacular so far, and especially as a lineman. Usually the young guys you see play are more skill position guys. You'll see more receivers, maybe some DBs. It's a little more rare for a lineman. So what's that been like to jump right on the field? And was there any real adjustment for you? Because last year you're playing against 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Now sometimes you're going up against a 23-year-old guy that's probably made his first payment on his mortgage.
Yeah, it's been different. It's been a lot to adjust to, but just getting in the weight room, getting bigger. I was blessed to have a great weight room and a great coach, weightlifting coach, and great coaches overall in high school. They got me right, and they got me ready to come here in college, and that's what they told me they were going to do. They told me I was going to contribute somewhere, and that's what I'm doing.
I know to come in and play right away, part of it is you have to feel comfortable in your own position group. You have to feel comfortable with the team. What's it been like in the D-line room, and how easy was that to slide in and, not just know what you're doing on the field, but get along with the guys in the room and be able to enjoy your time in the locker room?
Just great people overall. They made it easy for me to just come in and be myself. A lot of places you can't be yourself, and I'm happy that this is a place where I could just be myself, strive to be my best person.
So season's gone a little tough. From your perspective, because, coaches have been here the whole time. A lot of these players have been here for the last 2 years, but you have a little bit of a different perspective. You came in after last season. This is year number 1. Where are you seeing this thing going, and where are you seeing the progress from your day one on camp to now? I know it's only a short time, but what have you noticed from a player's perspective?
As far as myself or the whole team?
Both.
For the team, I just see a lot of people. With losing a lot, it comes with a lot of just bad feeling, and our team has definitely picked up on that. And I've seen a lot of people say they want the best for this team, and I see some people trying to work to pick it up, and that's what I'm doing for myself as well. Like when I see somebody down, hey, what are we complaining for? At this point, just work to be your best self.
So let's talk about a little Roshaun off the field. You said you're a mechanical engineering major, but when you do have a little bit of free time, because I know that's not an easy major, even in semester number 1, what do you guys like to do, kill some time? I know you're over in Ghaffari in the dorms. How do you guys spend the free time, the little you do have during the season?
I've never been a big gamer, but I have a game, and I've been playing the game with my teammates a lot. Not a lot, but when I do get a chance, just walking around, getting to enjoy the city. It's a great city, beautiful. sometimes just find myself downtown at the Riverwalk at night, just, reflecting, taking a nice view.
Was that something about Wayne State maybe you weren't expecting, just how accessible it was to the rest of Detroit before you came here?
I was not expecting it, but when I came down here, me and my parents, we all looked, we were like, it's not what we expected, and it was just great. It was great to come into.
It really feels like that's the refrain you get from a lot of recruits or a lot of guys on the team are like, yeah, and I was the same way when I was getting recruited. It was, yeah, you know what, we'll go down, we'll listen to them. And then you get on campus and you realize it's a lot different than what you might think.
Yeah, definitely a lot different.
So, Roshaun, I appreciate your time. I guess, what are you looking for in these last two games, both personally and as a team? I know Roosevelt, Northern Michigan, a couple home games, a chance to go into the offseason on the right foot. What are you looking for in these final two contests?
I'm looking for W's.
You and me both, Roshaun. So good luck on Saturday against Roosevelt. Stay healthy, and we'll be cheering you on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Before we bring back Coach Wheatley, want to remind everyone that we are having the second annual Wayne State University Athletics Champion Classic. It will be held on Monday, July 28th, 2025 at TPC Michigan in Dearborn. The second annual Champions Classic, again, will be held Monday, July 28th, 2025 for the second annual golf outing to help fundraise for Wayne State. We hope to get your support. Again, Roshaun, thank you so much. We'll see you on Saturday, and we will talk once again to Coach Wheatley in a moment to preview Roosevelt up next. And now we welcome back Coach Tyrone Wheatley to Weekly with Wheatley. Coach, got a pretty good young player there with Roshaun McGee. I think that's going to be a pretty good pillar for you guys to build on the next few years.
Yes, he's the old soul, man. He's a young guy, but he has an old soul. Parents did a really great job with that guy, but he's full of personality, loves football. He's what we call like just old school football player.
Because what we talked about with him, he's taken everything in stride, but I'm sure you get on campus and you're trying to transition from high school to college. That's a big transition, and to also be asked to play a fairly big role on the team, that's a lot.
It is, but it's not. I mean, a lot of times we talk about the transition and we try and say it's a lot, but it's not. You're an athlete. That's what you've been doing and that's what you're accustomed to. So, but he's done a great job with it.
So let's talk about Roosevelt. I'm sure a lot of people here at Woodbridge Pub, I'm sure a lot of people that are going to be at the game, that'll listen to the game and listening right now are going, all right, who the heck's Roosevelt? And so they're new to the GLIAC. Yes, they joined this year. They're now a full GLIAC member. They're kind of doing what Davenport did about a decade ago, making the jump from NAIA to D2. They've entered the GLIAC. They're out of Chicago. What can you tell us about the Roosevelt football team in 2024?
Well, like teams like this in the NAIA, they understand the years and how many years it's going to take for them to get there. So as they're doing that, they're transitioning into recruiting those type of players and stockpiling them to get there. But offensively, they're a solid team. Cyrus, the running back, I mean, he is a good back. He runs hard. He's had the majority of their touches. I think the backup, we've seen him maybe 5 or 6 times. The quarterback, Carson, is a real accurate passer. He has the ability to extend the play, find the open man. He throws guys open. He does a great job. And we talk about the receiver. I kind of talk to him like he's an octopus. Like he has 8 arms. He has an incredible catching radius. And sometimes you think, is the quarterback made a great throw or is it a great catch? Either way, they have a great connection to one another. It's a great synergy. Defensively, very stout. Bend but don't break. They're not going to give you any crazy looks. They're going to be where they are, and they're going to say, hey, stop us.
We were talking before we recorded this show, and you were saying how they remind you a lot of yourself in this program. Not just the fact that they're in Chicago, they're in a major city for their university, but also kind of the personnel and where they are at the program. I want you to expand on that a little bit for everyone listening.
Well, like I was saying before, they were NAIA, and then they were making a transition. As they're making that transition to come into Division II, they're getting the program together. They're getting the guys together. It's kind of like what I was doing. I came in and I had to get my guys together going into second year. We're young. They didn't have a lot of production. They're young. So, like I said, we're pretty even matched, and we're pretty close in similar ways of how we're building our programs and getting to where we want to be.
So they're coming into the GLIAC, and obviously first year they're going to want to make a statement. They're going to want to say, hey, we're here. They already beat Northern Michigan up there. I'm sure they'd love to add another road win to their resume here in Detroit. And there's also always a little natural Detroit-Chicago rivalry. And be it the last few weeks, you were the hunter. You were trying to knock off one of the teams vying for a playoff spot. This week the roles are almost a little reversed, where they're coming in saying, hey, we're trying to make a name for ourselves. They're trying to knock off one of the established teams in the GLIAC. What's that mentality like going into this game?
Well, I mean, in their eyes, we're established, but we're not. So you can turn the tables just as well. They're being hunted as well. But they're coming into our place. I think that's the only difference, is that they're playing here and we're playing at home. But other than that, I think I say we're both after the same thing. We're trying to get ourselves established. We're trying to basically put one foot in front of the other and take that leap into being up in the top echelon of the conference.
Get to this point in the season, I know practices usually get a little simpler, at least in my experience, that you guys are a little banged up. You're 10 weeks into a season, plus the 3 or 4 for the camp. So you're 3-4 months into this thing. What's the mentality like at practice? I shouldn't say the mentality, but the way you go about it, because it seems like when you get to this point, it's a lot of get in, get the work done, get out, and let's be as healthy as we can for Saturday.
Absolutely not. No. You have to build a callus. You have to. Because if you get into that mindset, then you're just going through the motions. And that's how you build your system. That's how you build your culture, right? But once you get your depth in these young minds, so you have the first year, the guys are getting used to it. The second year, the guys not getting used to it, they're thriving in it. But then by that third year, it becomes the expectation. It kind of becomes, like I was giving the guys an example today about just the culture in certain houses and certain, like if you come over my house, you take your shoes off, right? That is just what you do, and it's what you understand, no matter what. And that's how it is. Once you come in, you understand what the practice is going to be like. So it goes back to what I talked about in the off-season training. You understand what the season is going to be like. You understand what it's going to be like. So I'm going to get myself ready in the off-season. I'm going to get myself ready into camp. Like you talk about the teams in the NFL, like when I say Pittsburgh Steelers, they're squatting heavy in the year. Tennessee Titans lifting heavy in the year, and they're still hitting. What did Mr. Campbell say with the Detroit Lions? Make no bones about it. We didn't tackle well. Guess what we're going to do in practice? We're going to tackle.
Right.
And that's the only way you're going to build a team. And if it's not built for those guys, it's just not built for them. But at some point in time, you have to get your team to that point.
So is this a point then in the season where not just in games but in practice, you're still very much evaluating and going, okay, these are the guys that I know I can work with next year, that these are the guys I can put maybe a little more stock in going into the offseason?
Always evaluating. There's two things you're always doing. You're evaluating and building culture. Those are the two things you always do every single day. And so not only are you evaluating culture, you're evaluating the players for coming back, but you're also evaluating the culture aspect of, is he a good player? Is he a good fit? Is he helping us build the fundamental things that we need to have this program move forward, like we talked about in terms of practice, right? So how you do one thing is how you do everything.
So Saturday, 1 o'clock kickoff against Roosevelt. What do you guys need to do to get that win and to kind of get that monkey off your back?
Well, what you talked about earlier, right? It's just being consistent, playing 4 quarters, right? Playing the first half, second half, playing it, being consistent. Now the next thing of it is complementary football, offense, defense, and special teams, which we're starting to put it together, but it's just starting off slow, but we just have to constantly do it.
Is that something that weighs on you, or something that maybe adds a little extra pressure when you're in a losing streak and maybe you try a little extra hard because you just want that win so darn bad? Is that something that you have to try to, block that out, or is that something you think about when you're getting ready and during the game?
Well, like once again, if you understand where you are and what's going on and what's happening, it's not a panic situation. Like I've been here before, I understand this. And then once it catches, like I say, each player has their moment where the light bulb turns on and when it starts to just crease for them and it goes. And then you put it together. And it's one of those deals where it's just a maturation. And you don't panic, because if I panic, who else is panic? The guys panic, right? You have to keep your cool, and they kind of go off of my energy. So you have to make sure that they're always in the know. What I mean by that is you're doing a good job. Just continue to do it. Don't overthink it.
All right, keys to a Wayne State Warrior victory against Roosevelt.
Consistency. That is it. Consistency.
I like that you keep it simple. All right, I'll let you leave with this. What do you have for fans that are wanting to come out to Tom Adams Field, ready to root you on? What's your message to the Warrior fans out there?
Continue to come out, right? Just continue to come out. The record is not showing where we are, but it's where we want to be, and we can only do it with you.
Well, Coach, I very much appreciate it. Good luck against Roosevelt.
Thank you.
He's head coach Tyrone Wheatley. I'm Brady Beedon, and that will do it for this week's edition of Weekly with Wheatley. Join us next week here live from Woodbridge Pub, the season finale, as we get ready for Northern Michigan again, kicking off against Roosevelt Saturday at 1 o'clock. Again, for Tyrone Wheatley, I'm Brady Beedon. Thank you so much for listening.
Michigan First Credit Union is a proud sponsor of Wayne State Athletics. With a custom-built mobile app and 2 branches and 10 ATMs located on or near campus, Michigan First makes banking easy and convenient. And we're proud to serve our communities all across Metro Detroit. Michigan First. Experience banking undefined. For details, visit MichiganFirst.com. Go Warriors!